And with all this uncertainty regarding the mega bill, local organizations like nonprofits have growing concerns.
And joining us now in studio to tell us more about how their nonprofit could be impacted is Nancy Sasaki. She's president and CEO of United Way of San Diego County. Thank you so much for being with us. So what does the big, beautiful bill really propose, and why is it causing concern for groups like yours?
You know, one of the reasons that we're really concerned is the impact it's going to have on the greater community. I know that y'all were just talking about some of the impacts with regard to Medicaid. There's about 1 million people in San Diego County alone who could lose their health care. And that's really concerning. It may just be things that are your basic health care needs, you know, but it could also mean that your life and death situations are also not going to be covered. And if you don't start early, you might end up in life or death when you could have taken care of it early on. So that's one definite big concern that we have. We also are concerned about 129,000 children who will lose access to food, whether it's in the mornings, at lunch, or in the evenings. In the summertime right now, where we do summer lunch programs, where kids are able to get their food then, they may not have access to their food. Now, hunger is one thing, you know, and going hungry is really a serious matter, but when they go into school and they're hungry, they're not able to learn. They're not able to focus and concentrate on that. That may mean that they're also losing sleep. The broader effect is also what we're not really thinking about all that often. We also have about 30,000 families that are getting access to earned income tax credits and child tax credits. So they're getting additional money to be able to support their families because they make such a low amount of money. This year it was $67,000 or less with your family. That made you eligible for these child tax credits. There's one family that we heard about that is, he's working as an Uber driver. He makes only about $15,000 a year in San Diego County. I don't know how you live on that at all, much less provide for your family. And through the child tax credits, they were able to get an additional $4,300, which helped them buy computers for their kids to be able to finish their lessons at home, because so much is now done online like that. So it's going to could have a very huge impact on our community. One of the things I get really concerned about is that those numbers are huge. Those numbers look like they could have an impact. I'd much rather deal with the impact now versus wait and see what happens, who goes hungry, who's in need, who needs health care, who's getting sick, what diseases are getting spread. It'd be really better if we could look at this bill and see where it's really hurting people in our community.
Sure. And I imagine you've reached out to San Diego's elected officials. What kind of response or community response would you like to see for the bill?
You know, one of the things that we are seeing, and I have to really commend our elected officials that are in Washington, D.C. and dealing with this, most all of them are very much against the bill, against a lot of these cuts to these programs that I just mentioned. They are very much doing things that they can do to support the bill, to support opposition to the bill, rather. And you know, so they're standing up in that way. You know, as we know, the Republicans do have more of the control, so we'll just have to wait and see, but it's just that wait and see that makes my stomach go in knots.
So how can the community help you sort of during these uncertain times?
You know, right now what we're asking the community to do is to also speak up and let their elected officials know the impact that this is going to have. We're very fortunate that in San Diego County we have a very generous donor population, and so you know, looking at where are the needs and where they can continue to provide more funds, but even probably more than they've done in the past. That's what's going to happen to the nonprofits in our community.
And you know what, I feel like I'm going a little backwards here, but before we let you go, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the government programs that are at risk under this plan and how, again, critical they are to some of the families that you support?
Right. So one of the advisory boards that I sit on is distributing emergency food and shelter funds. Those monies have not come in. So starting July 1, those organizations will no longer have money for emergency food, whether it's food or meals, but also for emergency shelters. That money's not going to be there. We also are looking at SNAP, which is the food preparation program for the kids that I was mentioning earlier. That's not going to be there. It's going to be severely cut. So it's like, who's not going to get any money for food for these kids to be able to eat. So those programs are going to go away. We'll see our food banks, we'll see the nonprofits that serve children being impacted. We're going to see problems with housing and having that available. We already have a problem with housing, but to make it even less available to those with serious needs, whether it's the disabled or those with HIV, those are also getting cut.
Well, I'm sure you'll be watching the headlines coming out of Washington just like us.
Okay. Absolutely.
All right, Nancy, thank you so much for joining us.